Okay, so now we're going to talk about blending modes, and we're going to combine masking with the blending modes feature using the fins as an example. So right now, if I click into the fin, there's not much here. Because it's a Photoshop layer, it doesn't actually go into a comp. It's not a composition. It's just a Photoshop layer. So in order to kind of apply different effects to it, I have to make it a comp that I'm going to then go into and manipulate. So again, it's a little bit like a symbol when you're talking about Adobe Animate. So if I have fin and I have Shift Command C, it's going to pre-compose. So what it's saying is that I want to take whatever selected, this layer, fin 1, and I want to make a composition of it. So I can call it fin 1 comp 1. That sounds fine. Leave all the attributes, here, and then it'll just sort of, this is now a comp. The fact that this is a yellow layer and that you see this little different icon, now when I click into it, I actually have my own timeline and I have different things that I can sort of apply to it in terms of a layer. So hopefully you sort of see that difference right here. So now what I want to do is I want to take some textures. I just took some of these textures that I found online, but you can make your own textures. These are just as an example, and you can just drag these in and you have this texture right here. First thing that I want to do is mask it. So here is where I can use the track matte. So if I do, let me see, alpha inverted, there we go. Right, if you just use like Luma inverted, you get sort of a multiply effect on the fin. That's really easy. Maybe you don't want to have that specific sort of look to it, but just know that's an alternative to using the set mask. What you can do is again go to your set mask, go to this layer, and you're going to tell it take the source from the fin, and that's not gonna work. How did I? Okay, so I have my own timeline. I've made the fin its own pre-comp, and now what I can do is take my texture and put it over, and then I can also take, why aren't you letting me do a track matte? Okay, so I've dragged my texture on top of the fin, but as you see, it's not allowing me to tell it where to take the track matte from. So if you just take fin 1 and copy it and then paste it over on top of the texture, what you can do is then say the track matte here should be coming from the fin itself, and then you have a clean cutter. So that's sort of in lieu of using the set mask effect, is that you can use the track matte and it's going to look at whatever's above it. So the texture is looking at the shape above it to rely on it to be the cutter, and that's what you sort of see the source here, and the source of the shape and the result of what's being seen. So at this point you can have lots of fun and sort of personalize it. So you can go to the mode, and if you're familiar with Photoshop, you have all these different blend layers. So you have things like sorry, wrong layer. If I'm on the texture, you have things like multiply, you have overlay, you have classic difference, you have screen. You really kind of play around and see what looks intriguing, what looks good to you, what you want the effect to be. Luminosity, for example. And what's even more is that you can impact the opacity of it. So if you then click down, where's my opacity? Right here. You can scale down how extreme you want that effect to be. Being that it's keyed, you could actually keyframe the effect that you wanted. So say you wanted it to go from no texture to lots of texture, you could actually key the opacity. So you could do that, and then if you wanted to take it one more level, what I did in the final demo, is that I took the other texture, put it on top of that, and then again you're going to take this fin shape, copy it, and then just paste it above. Tell this layer to take the track matte from the fin above it, and then you could do play around with, oh, I keep choosing the wrong one. You want to choose the mode for the texture. It's my bad. And you could, mix and match the two textures together. So it doesn't have to be just one texture, but you could layer texture on top of texture with different blending modes, and then playing around with the opacity of what you want to actually show through. So have fun with it. But that's sort of how you would use a cutter mask, but then also apply a texture and then sort of figure out how much of the opacity of the texture you want to actually apply. So now when I go back up to my mermaid, here we go. There is my beautiful fin, and all I would do is duplicate it for two fins, but first I'm going to set an effect on it before duplicating it.